Alright guys, today we're going to talk about the order operation. You guys heard of PEMDAS. So every time you guys do a math operation, we have to follow some order to be the same every time we answer a question. First of all, let's talk about what is an exponent. How do you work with those exponents, because it is on PEMDAS. So keep in mind that when you guys do have an exponent, you are going to take the base, which is the number here, under the exponent, and you are going to multiply that number, the base, this many times, which is 4 in this case, and the exponent tells you how many times. So when you multiply 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, notice it is 4 times. You guys multiply 3 times 3, which is 9, times 3, 27, times 3 is 81. So the exponent tells you to multiply the base by itself that many times. Do not multiply the two numbers. 3 times 4 is 12, but you are not multiplying those two numbers. You're multiplying the base by itself. Now, you also have to know the difference when you have negatives with a parenthesis and one with no parentheses. So let's go ahead and look at the number, the base that has no parentheses. So we have this one here. And we do have a negative here with no parentheses. So when that happens, you bring down the negative first of all. So I just put negative right here. And the base, which is 2, in this case, you're going to multiply it by itself 4 times, because the exponent is 4. Right here, that's the exponent. So you keep the negative. You guys have to bring down the negative, and when you multiply 2 times 2, that's 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So the answer is negative 16. It's a little bit different if you have parentheses. So look at the one with the negative inside of the parentheses, and you guys have an exponent. It's very similar to this one over here on the left side, but it doesn't have parentheses. So there is a trick that you guys can learn. If you have parentheses with the negative inside of the parentheses and the exponent is even number, so 4 is even, 2 is even, 6 is even, 8, 10, 12, all those numbers are even. So if the exponent is even and the negative is inside the parentheses, your answer will be positive, and you just multiply the base by itself that many times. So I have a 2 here, and I'm going to multiply it by itself 4 times. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. So the answer is positive 16. Now, why is it positive? You've been wondering. Well, if you do it the long way, I should show you guys the shortcut. If you do it the long way, you have to multiply everything inside of the parentheses by itself 4 times. So I'm just going to write it down so you can see it. Negative 2 in parentheses times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. That is 4 times. So when you do the mental math, negative times negative is positive. Positive times negative will go back to negative. And negative times another negative is a positive. So the answer is positive 16. I wrote down the plus so you can see it is a positive, but your answer can be 16. You don't need that sign next to the number. So let's try another one. What about if you guys have this one here, the negative inside of the parentheses, and the exponent is an odd number. So the trick is, if the exponent is odd, 1, the 3, the 11, the 15, the 23, those are odds, then your answer will be negative right here. Then you are going to multiply the base by itself this many times. Now, you don't have to. Use mental math again, number sense. If you multiply this number, 1 times 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 1, all the way to 17 times, well, it's going to equal to 1. So the answer, we know, is negative because the exponent is odd and the negative is inside the parentheses, but it's going to be 1 because when you multiply 1, doesn't matter how many times, if you multiply by itself, is going to always equal to 1. So the answer is a -1 here. All right, so now we can actually look at the order operation, which is, you guys heard of PEMDAS, you guys heard of Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally. But every time you guys evaluate, and this is when you do an algebraic expression or a value expression, to evaluate is to find the value or the answer when you multiply, divide, subtract, or you add. So the definition here says evaluate is you actually follow the order operation to find this value, 16 for this case. Now, what is the order operation? So let's go ahead and look at that order. And this is the order right here. You guys need to know, memorize. You guys need to follow the order operation every time you guys do math. Doesn't matter if you guys have negative, positives, fractions, decimals, always follow this order. So what is the order? First of all, you always start with parentheses. Now, parentheses, you already know what they look like, but you also might have this type of parentheses. They have a different name, but they kind of look like a square. They're called brackets. So brackets and parentheses are the same thing. Some teachers, they say groups. What's inside of the parentheses is a group. Same thing, but it's just a parentheses, and you must do what's inside of the parentheses first. So you have to add, inside of the parentheses, you add, you have to multiply, you multiply. After you evaluate or you simplify, that's another word you have to know. After you do the math inside of the parentheses, you go to exponents, and any number with the exponent, you also have to simplify, which means you have to actually do the math. And after exponents, now this is a tricky one. Notice it says m-d. You always want to do whatever's first from left to right. So from here all the way to the right. And for example, if you guys have multiplication and division at the same time, if you have multiplication on the left side first, you multiply. But if you have division on the left side first, you divide. So you have to be careful when you guys have those two operations together. Same thing with addition and subtraction. You always want to add or subtract whatever's first from left to right. So if you have addition first on the left side, then you add. If you have subtraction, then you subtract, right? So what do I mean? We're going to do some examples, and we're going to follow the order operation. So this is a good example right here, because you have subtraction, division, exponents. We don't have parentheses, but we also have addition. And you see the minus, subtraction, division, exponents, and you guys have addition. So remember, PEMDAS. And just to remind you guys, it's right here. PEMDAS. You follow those order operation to find the answer. So let's put this on the side. And you always want to start with parentheses, but we don't have parentheses. So the next step is to start with exponents. So I'm going to put a box around the exponents, and you are going to simplify. So you bring down the 16, you bring down the 8, minus 8, division, and 2 squared is the base by itself 2 times. So 2 times 2 is a 4. And then you put plus 14 on this side. Now, you guys look at what you have. You have subtraction, 16 minus 8. You have division, 8 divided by 4. And you have addition, 4 plus 14. For looking at PEMDAS, one more time. When you have division, you guys have addition and subtraction, or you have to multiply or divide before you add or subtract. So we don't have multiplication, but we do have division. So I am going to put a box right here. 8 divided by 4. That's what we have to do first. You bring down the 16, the minus, 8 divided by 4 is 2, and plus 14. Now, again, tricky part right here. You have subtraction and you have addition. 16 minus 2 and 2 plus 14. So which one do you do first? Look at PEMDAS. When you have addition and subtraction at the same time. This one here. You always do whatever's first from left to right. So when we look at that problem again, I do have from left to right. I'm just going to put an arrow so you know that we are going from left to the right. So the first one is subtraction right here. So you are going to subtract, even though it says addition or subtraction. I know the A is before the S, but the order is always whatever's first. So you subtract those two. 16 minus 2, 14 plus 14. And the last step, you just add those two numbers, 28. So the order operation, PEMDAS. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys these two examples because one of them has parentheses, the other one has parentheses with brackets. So let's go ahead and look at this one first. So I'm keeping the PEMDAS right here so you guys can remember what the order is. But when you guys follow the order, you always start with parentheses. So I do have parentheses 10 minus 6. So I do this first. So I put parentheses. I subtract 10 minus 6, 4. I bring down the 5 plus the 2, division, and the 4. After parentheses, you do exponents. We do not have exponents, so we skip that one. We go to multiplication or division. Now you also have to understand, obviously this is division, but if you have a number with parentheses next to it, nothing in between, these two are multiplying. So multiplication or division, whatever's first from left to right. If you read the problem, 4 divided by 2, that's the first one. 5 times 4, that's the second one. That's after division. So we have to divide in this case because division is first from left to right. So 4 divided by 2, 2. You guys bring down the plus, there's the 5 times the 4. Now we do have addition and we have multiplication, 5 times 4. So once again, PEMDAS, multiplication is before addition. And you guys can see the M before the A, okay, when you go down, PEMDAS. So when you guys do the multiplication, I'm going to multiply 5 times 4. So I bring down the 2, the plus 20. 5 times 4 is 20. And we get 22 as the answer. Now with brackets and parentheses, you always want to do what's inside the brackets first. So we have the big brackets right here. We have parentheses inside of the brackets. So you have to follow that order too. Inside of the brackets, you follow the same order operation. So we start with parentheses inside of the brackets. So we have these parentheses. Notice the exponent, it's outside of the parentheses. So we are going to use that. But before we use the exponents, we have to add what's inside of the parentheses. So 2 plus 3, 5. Keep the parentheses, you bring down the square, here's the brackets, minus, there's the 32, there's the bracket, and the 6 outside. Inside of the brackets, you have to finish PEMDAS. So parentheses, done, check. Now we go to exponents. So we do the 5 squared right here, and that will be 25. 5 times 5 is 25. You square the 5. You put the brackets, the minus, and the 32, and the 6 outside. Inside of the brackets, we're not done. Now you guys are going to subtract 32 minus 25. So that's going to be 7. You bring down the brackets and the 6 outside. Now, remember I mentioned that brackets is the same thing as parentheses. So if you have the 6 with the bracket, nothing in between, that's multiplication. So you guys will multiply the two numbers. And when you multiply the two numbers, this will be 42. Now, if you guys have fractions, you do the same thing, guys. You are going to follow the order operation, but you're going to do it separately. You do the top, and then you do the bottom. And then you guys simplify, which means you do whatever math you can do, order operation, until you cannot do anything else. So when you look at the division line, which is the fraction line right here, well, the top, I have parentheses, so I need to follow order operation. I have exponents, I have addition. On the bottom, I have exponents and I have subtraction. So let's go ahead and put the division line or the fraction line, and let's do the parentheses first. So 2 times, remember that dot in the middle is multiplication. We're not doing the x anymore because we're going to start having variables, but we do have the period or the dot in the middle. So that would be 6. 2 times 36. You bring that the square plus 4. On the bottom, we don't have parentheses, but we do have an exponent. So we do that on the bottom. 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4, and you bring down the 5. Then you go back to the top. On the top, we have exponents. That's the next step, parentheses and then exponents. So 6 squared, 6 times 6 is 36. Remember, you don't multiply 6 times 2. You multiply the base by itself 2 times. Plus 4, and on the bottom, well, you guys have 4 minus 5, negative 1. Keep going, we're not done. On the top, you can add. You guys have 36 plus 4, 40. On the bottom, you only have a negative 1. You guys cannot do anything else, so there's a negative. You must simplify every fraction you guys see. You can actually simplify this one. 40 divided by negative 1, that's going to be negative 40. So there's my answer. Remember to simplify fractions if you can all the time. Now, one thing that you guys can also do when you are using PEMDAS is substitution. Now, substitution is to replace a variable with a number inside a parenthesis. So I give you guys an example right here. This is an algebraic expression. 2x plus 3x equals 2. There's no equal sign, so we don't say equation, but it is an expression. They do give us the value of x. Now this one here, it has an equal sign. So we're saying that x, the value is 2. So x equals 2. So what do you do to substitute? You are going to take the number 2 and you're going to substitute into the x's that you guys have. So notice what I did. The x made them up parentheses. I took out the x and then now I have parentheses. This x now is parentheses. I still have the 3, I still have the square, and I still have the 2 here. I take the number, I put it inside of the parentheses, and this becomes the order operation. You follow parentheses first, then exponents, and then multiplication or division, and then addition or subtraction. So let's try substitution and evaluating. Remember, evaluating is just to find the value of the expression. All right, evaluating. So this one, it says here, evaluate. You have that expression right there. You have a fraction, and they say a equals 12, b equals 9, and c equals 4. So let's go ahead and substitute first. So I'm going to make my division line, the fraction line right there. The b, I'm going to make it a parentheses, and I put the square outside. So let's go ahead and look at the b, and the value is 9. B equals 9. So I put a 9 inside of the parentheses. I have the minus 2. The a, I'm going to make a parentheses. A is 12 right here. Then I have a c, and the c value is 4. So I put a 4, and you keep the square outside of the parentheses. On the bottom, the a is a 12 plus the c is a 4, so you make it a parentheses and you substitute a 4 minus, and the b is 9. Now you guys follow the order operation on the top, follow the order operation on the bottom. So let's go ahead and just do that. So on the top, we don't have anything inside of the parentheses. The 9, you can do anything to it. The 12, you can't. 4, you can't. 9, 4, 12, you can't. So we do exponents. So 9 squared, 81, minus the 2 times the 12. And I'm going to multiply. I'm going to square the number, and I have a 4. So 4 squared right here. So that's a 16. On the bottom, notice I don't have anything outside of the parentheses, but I am adding and I am subtracting. So I'm going to add, because that's the first from left to right. 12 plus 4 is 16. Minus, I don't need that parentheses around the 9 because I don't have anything outside. So I just put a 9 right there. And, oops, there you go. And now I go back to the top and I multiply. So I'm going to multiply all of this right here, because multiplication is before subtraction. 81 minus, and I have a 2 times 12 is 24. 24 times 16, that's 384. So I'm going to put 384 over. At the bottom, you guys subtract 60 minus 9, and that's going to be 7 right here. Okay, so now let me show us. Hey, the fraction is not moving. Okay, let me just put it right here. So now you guys will do the top. So 81 minus 384 is negative 303. You subtract because they have different signs. And the bottom is 7. Now you guys have to check if you can simplify the fraction, and I'll help you guys on this one. You cannot. So the answer is negative 303 over 7. If I ask for decimals, you use the calculator, you turn that into a decimals. If I don't ask for decimals, do not change it to a decimal. And mixed numbers, I'm not asking for that, so improper fractions is fine. And the last one I'm going to show you guys today is kind of the application problem here. You have to really know how to write an expression because it's going to help you to find the actual answer, obviously for the problem, and it's going to help you to understand what you are doing with the math. So you guys read the problem. You guys can pause the video if you want and read it. But it says here that you or Anne will be renting a car. Now the company, the car rental company, charges $36 per day. And they do have an addition plus 50 cents per mile. Now this is very important. Over 100 miles. So if Anne, she drives, she rents a car, and she rents a car for 5 days and drives 180 miles, you need to write an expression on how to find the cost. So let's go ahead and put cost right here. I want to know how much will she pay when she rents a car. So common sense, let's use number sense. The car rental, the company is charging 36 per day. So that means that we have 5 days times the $36 per day. So I'm going to put 36 times 5. And I put parentheses because that's the same thing as multiplication. Plus 50 cents. So there's the 50 cents right here. Now it says here that they start charging over 100 miles. What that means, guys, is the company will not charge for the first 100. So I'm going to mention the word free. The first 100 miles is free, but obviously you have to pay for the rental. So it's not really free, but they don't charge you for the $100 miles, the first 100 miles that you drive. But she drives more than 100 miles. She drives 180 miles. So what that means is you need to take the number of miles she drove, so that's 180, but you're going to have to subtract the 100 that they're not charging. So in other words, what we must use to find the answer, and that's going to be part B, my cost will be 36 times 5 plus 50 cents times 80. So the company will only charge 80 miles because the first 100, those are not charged. When you do this on the calculator or when you evaluate, you actually find the answer. I'm going to tell you guys what the answer is. And the cost equals $220. I just did it on my head right now. No, I'm just playing. I have the answer, but it is 220. And that is the end of the video. Make sure you guys practice. Make sure you guys do your practice work, order operation to practice. I always mention the only way to learn math is doing math. All right, guys. See you later.